On today's show, the LA Clippers make it 2 in a row on the weekend, and guess who led the way and is looking like he might be a most improved candidate? Ivica ZuShaq, baby, is back, and he might be here to stay. Gonna be talking about this Clipper win against the Warriors on today's Locked On Back-to-Back W's Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 20th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I went live immediately following the Warriors game to give my raw reaction. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where I want you to let me know what you thought of this win and how great has Ivica Zubac been these first 3 games. Let me know all that. We're going to be talking about him, the incredible impact of Kris, Dunn, and Derrick Jones Jr. defensively, and of course the man leading the charge the entire way, James Harden. And in this episode that we're going to talk about is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I'm going to give you some really good bets on FanDuel to place before the second segment, but you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just go to FanDuel.com. What a win, Clipper Nation. Back-to-back against 2 solid teams, the Warriors and an even better team on Saturday night, the Denver Nuggets. And they got it done. We got it done. Kris Dunn, who, by the way, was getting a lot of love and warranted love on social media. And also, before we get started, Locked On Clippers now has a newsletter. There is a daily newsletter by me that every podcast is doing for Locked On. So subscribe to that. It's free. Get it right to your email. Working on that. Anyway, Ivica Zubac. We talked about it all summer. How much was he going to be fed by the coaching staff? And I guess our players, but I never had doubt that Harden would not feed Zoo. He's going to have to look for someone to alleviate the pressure off of him a bit, and Norman Powell and Zoo are those guys. I gave Kevin Porter Jr. a lot of credit in the postseason. So far, he has not been good. Had some good moments in this game, had a steal, he went all the way, but he's taken some really bad shots and just ball pounded, and it's just looked like bad team basketball, like what guys on bad teams do. Just ball hog, dribble a lot, shoot bad shots, brick, and then get lost on defense as a result. That's what I've seen for the most part for 3 games, although the defense has not been too bad. But James Harden, I didn't have much doubt that he would feed Zoo. It was more about the coaching staff. And so far, they have made him look like the player that he really is. How many times have I gone back and forth with people in these comment sections for years about this guy, saying that he's not fully maximized, he's got very good post game, he's improved every single year, he deserves more of a chance as a hub offensively in the low post, and because we have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, we're not using him, and because it's the modern NBA, we don't throw it to a post up big. Well, there's a couple things that have unlocked him for me. One, having the best pick and roll player he's ever played with by a mile in James Harden, who's in the conversation with, in my opinion, the Chris Pauls and the John Stocktons of the world, and Steve Nash as the greatest pick and roll player to ever play the game. He's right there in that conversation. If I had to pick a Mount Rushmore, even LeBron, Luka Doncic also in that conversation, but Steve Nash, John Stockton, CP3, Harden might be at the top of my list. And his pocket passes are very well timed. And Zoo is not the kind of above-the-rim threat that a Clint Capella was or even a Dwight Howard was. But what Zoo has that those guys don't is fantastic touch in the paint. That one-handed push shot from the middle of the key has become money. We knew his right-hand jump hook was money. that synergy with Harden is one major reason why Harden attracts the second defender so much that it gives Zoo the opportunity to be open. So James Harden having an amazing pick and roll player. The second one is simply the coaching staff finally taking the leash off. And then the third and final is the obvious. No Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That's giving Zoo the opportunity to get those touches. It's not just pick and roll with Harden. It's throw it down to Zoo and let him make a play. How about in the third quarter? Double teamed, and he turned over the right shoulder and made that left-handed jump hook. In the 2022-23 season, we saw he started to implement that left-handed jump hook. Last season, we saw a little bit of that, but we didn't feed him enough. If this is what he can do consistently, then I'm going to be wrong about this team. And when I said wrong, I mean I think we'll be around 11th or 12th without Kawhi. A little under 500 if Harden plays like I think he will, which is good. And our defense is going to be good. But I did say there were a couple of things that could make me wrong and have us in playing territory even without Kawhi. One, James Harden being even better than I thought. You know what I'm saying? Like an all-NBA level as opposed to just an all-star level. Right now, depending on what that conversation to me depends on how much we win. If we win and are like over 500 without Kawhi, all-NBA for sure should be in consideration for James. If we're around what I'm saying, and he's putting up those solid numbers, 20 and 10, or even 20 and 11, I mean, this guy might lead the league in assists this year. Because he's got the ball in his hands so much, and he's so efficient at getting guys open shots, and we got some good players, better than people think, that he could lead the league in assists. But, it's really great to see Zoo have these kind of opportunities and capitalizing on those opportunities. I was saying about James Harden and the All-NBA conversation and the All-Star conversation. There are ways that this team can be even better than I thought, and I could be wrong. And that is James being even better than I thought. Zubac playing at a level that's like we feed him the ball several times a game and he averages like 16 and 11 or more, which it's looking like that could be very possible. And then the last one is our defense being so good, even without Kawhi, that we're creating turnovers and getting out and running. So far, outside, this is around what I thought Harden would be, although the assists are even higher than I thought. The other two things, the defense is even slightly better than I thought. And Zoo, I really didn't think the coaching staff would do it, would really buy into him like this. He's showing why I was right, and I've been wrong about a ton. And I could be wrong about this team if I'm right about this. Zubac's being insane. The post game, the rim protection. And by the way, the Golden State Warriors, they are not the shooting team that they once were. So Zubac's being in that drop, that low drop, besides Steph Curry, we're not worried about anybody from the Warriors from three. We're not worried about anybody. Jonathan Kuminga, we were totally living with him shooting. Brendan Pajimski didn't shoot well from three. Hell, DeAnthony Melton airballed a wide open three coming off a screen. So we were living with that completely, and they only shot 33% from deep. Steph Curry did end up getting hurt in the fourth quarter, which was very unfortunate. You never like to see that. But we had kept Steph in check in the fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? We had really kept him in check throughout the game. So I think we still probably would have won, depending on how it was going, or based on how it was going. But Zoo was just spectacular. Putbacks, offensive rebounds, and it's funny because we've talked about in previous years Ivica Zubac being played off the floor because defensively he only is good in drop coverage. He's not a switchable big. He's not a guy you want to send out to the perimeter to guard. But he's not only fantastic at drop coverage, when he is being utilized to his strengths offensively and you're feeding the big in the low post, which is unpopular in the modern NBA, you are now doing what we saw for many, many years in the past, what basketball was, taking advantage of a size mismatch in the low post and forcing teams to either double or get a guy off the floor. Ivica Zubac effectively played Trace Jackson Davis off the floor on Sunday night. And that was amazing to see. And there are teams that are not, and they can't switch. Teams cannot switch smaller guys on the Zoo because he's actually going to go to the low post. I'm so proud of the guy. He bleeds this franchise's colors. He's been a great spokesperson for us. He's always available. And right now, we're looking at a potential most improved player conversation. I would honestly start placing my bets on that because we know, Clipper fans know, Zu's improved. But he hasn't improved as much as everyone's going to think he has. It's just about opportunity. He is looking like a monster right now. I see all the nicknames. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar I've heard as well. Someone said Zoo Chamberlain. I've heard that. I'm like, that's not even creative. If it's a ZuShaq, that's my own personal one. It's looking like the real deal this year. Looking like the real deal, baby. Let's read the line. 112-104. We beat the Warriors at Chase Center. Zubac with 23, 18, and 6. That's 18 rebounds, 6 of them offensive, 6 assists. And how about that look away when he got the ball on the short roll late in the game on that pick and roll, and Brandon Pajimski got sent back to his alma mater of Santa Clara. That was crazy to see Zoo do that so calmly, like he just knew exactly what he was going to do before he caught the ball. That's confidence. And here's one thing we're sleeping on. How many times have I talked about over the years that Zoo is such a confidence player? Imagine the confidence he's getting from what's happening right now and that how much that could elevate his game. Because the game is all mental. If he starts thinking he's like a top 5 center in the league, move over Rudy Gobert, the second best European center in the NBA, plays here in Los Angeles. And coming up, going to talk more about Zoo, James Harden, but who I thought may have become jersey status tonight, Kris Dunn. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place where you place your bets. And let me tell you something about FanDuel. It's not just NFL. You can also do NBA. And let me just say this after this game on Sunday night. Most improved player, bet on Ivica Zubac right now, because I'm looking at the odds and I don't see him anywhere close to the top. I'm scrolling down on FanDuel. I see him plus 2,000. If those aren't good enough odds for you, I don't know what to tell you. Where can you do this? FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, back here in LA to talk about Ivica Zubac and his Clippers. For me, he was the player of the game on Sunday night. I said James Harden the first 2 games, but Zoo was the man in this one, blocking shots, playing dudes off the floor, finishing around the basket, and making good reads out of the short roll. I mean, his decision-making out of that short roll when Harden gets blitzed, it's gone so much better. The game is just slowing down for him, and that's all confidence and experience. One of the most underrated parts of someone's skill set is experience, because it's not a skill or not something you can quantify, even though you can in years, but it's not a stat for the advanced stat people. Experience. Playing and making mistakes. Going through situations. That matters. And speaking of a guy who's never had experience playing on a team that's actually trying to be good, Kris Dunn. He and Derrick Jones Jr. and even Nico Batum, they are going to give this team a level of blue-collar work ethic and lockdown defense that I don't remember any Clipper team in my 20 years of fandom having. And let me say why. In 2006, we had a solid defensive team, but the main guys that anchored that defense for me, Quentin Ross on the perimeter and Elton Brand down low, and Kaman obviously was a big body. And EB, he does not get enough credit. People are obviously still salty about it. I get it. But Elton was so good on the interior for his size defensively, and he was super strong. But that team doesn't match up for me in terms of overall defensive personnel. Lob City, we had some solid defensive teams, but our best wing defender in those early Lob City years was Matt Barnes or Chris Paul. It's not quite good enough. Luke Baumute, he to me is the best defender we've ever had in my time as a fan. Him or Quentin Ross on the wing. In terms of one-on-one defense and what he was doing defensively for us. I think Luke Baumute, that 2016-17 Luke Baumute, I would pay anyone to get that tape of 2016-17 when we played LeBron and the Cavs in Cleveland. He made him look like John Salmons out there. No disrespect. John Salmons was a bucket, but he was looking like a nobody. So Luke Baumute, shout out to him. 2019, we had a blue-collar work ethic, but it was mostly SGA, Pat Bev, like as our good defenders. Shamet was average. Lou Williams wasn't good. That team was more of an offensively surprising team in my eyes. And then 2-1-3, total letdown defensively over the years. This team might have the best defensive personnel in the history of the Clippers. They have a great rim protector, and this is what's going to make Zoo look better. All these people that don't fully understand modern NBA schemes, and that's totally okay. Like, the game has changed for better or for worse. That's subjective. But there are certain things that are done now and certain things you have to evaluate properly to understand what happens on the court. And with Zoo, he often gets blamed by people that don't necessarily know what they're watching because they see that Zubac's man is scoring, but they don't realize what Zoo's responsibility is on defense. And when you're playing drop coverage, yes, you drop by the rim, but if a guy with the ball in his hands is coming off of a screen and the guy that's guarding him is not in the picture, he's fully on his back, is Zubac supposed to just stay attached to his man and watch him just waltz in for a dunk or a layup? That wouldn't be good defense, would it? So he's got to come help. So unless you're asking Zoo to guard two people at once, which only the select few players in the league can do, that's not a realistic ask of an NBA, of anybody, to guard two players at once, especially NBA level guys with 7-footers and stuff like that. So Zoo has had to overcompensate for a team that has had weak perimeter defense because they had two stars that were dubbed the best two-way duo in the league. But what people did not realize and were short-sighted about was that when they're your two offensive engines, they're not going to spend that energy on defense, especially considering their age and their injuries. And that's what Boston figured out as well. And they got Derrick White and Drew Holiday in the mix. And then that alleviates pressure for them offensively so that Jaylen Brown got to guard guys like Luka last year in the finals. I mean, they figured it out. But see, I think the Clippers may have learned a little something too. But now they don't even have Paul George. So it doesn't matter. But putting all these defensive-minded guys around James Harden, it's really good. You got an elite rim protector. Derrick Jones Jr., Kris Dunn, and Nico Batum have this in common. They all do an incredible job of using their hands and making themselves big defensively. If you are a kid or you are playing basketball, whether it's pickup or a men's league or you're still in high school ball, one of the biggest things I see now, and I have to remind my players of it constantly, and I didn't do a good enough job of it at times as a kid either. Make yourself big. Have your hands up. Even if you're not, you should always be seeing the ball, but even if you're not, sometimes Nico Batum, Derrick Jones, and Kris Dunn just get deflections with their hands being up, with their hands being out. Because sometimes you might be face guarding a guy, it's part of the scheme, and you don't see the ball coming to you. You have your hands up, you get a deflection, we're going the other way because your teammate picks it up. They do such a great job of making themselves big, which shortens the passing windows for guys. And it makes the denial easier. It makes the catch tougher for the opponent. All that stuff. Shrinks the passing lanes. And Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr.'s rotations, we know Nico's are good too, but since they're the new Clippers, spectacular. The way they cover ground, their closeouts are fantastic. They don't just jump recklessly. I mean, they are going to change the floor of this team. And I said this all summer, but seeing it actually play out is something else. And for all the people that are talking about Kevin Porter Jr. over Kris Dunn before the season, what are we talking about here? Let's not even discuss that now. Kevin Porter Jr. might be more talented than him, but we're looking at a guy that's strong defensively, that moves his feet well, that's really athletic. I mean, what were some of those rebounds he was grabbing? Like, is this Dr. J, like offspring that we have here, just snatching the ball out of the air like that with one hand? What's going on here? Who is this guy? And I've watched him at Providence, but the teams he's been on in the NBA haven't been good. So I haven't been watching the Utah Jazz that are tanking. I haven't been watching the Chicago Bulls that were tanking. So I haven't been able to keep up with Kris Dunn's progress that much at the NBA level. All I know is that he hasn't been able to find his offense. But wow, seeing him defend like this, he's going to be an upgrade over Russ off the bench. Because again, Russ can probably do more things in terms of if he leads his own unit and creating offense. But Kris Dunn is more comfortable in what he is. Russell Westbrook didn't like being a backup point guard. Kris Dunn just wants to get minutes for a good team. It's so different. It's totally different. And he's known for defense. He's out there to guard. Westbrook's never been a guy that... Stars are never guys, unless their main skill is defending, that gets them to the All-Star game or whatever. They're never going to go into a game thinking their main thing is to guard, or else they're not going to play. That's Kris Dunn. And how about that floater he made in the fourth quarter? Then that pass he made where he was under the basket, kicked it out. I think it was to Amir Coffey in the corner for three. That was a big shot. But Derrick Jones Jr., he got going right away. Knocked down threes, got out and ran. Really nice alley-oop dunk from James Harden. But his defense, just making himself big, whether it was guarding Steph Curry or the passing lanes, getting his hand on the ball. He had 2 steals, 4 rebounds, and his length is just crazy. It's unbelievable how many times you think, oh, is Steph or whoever this is about to get a shot off coming over the screen, but Derrick Jones is right in the rear view, and he's just making the court look so much smaller for those players that he's guarding. It's crazy going up against an athlete like that. I can't even imagine it. 7 for 10 from the field for Derrick. 3 for 4 from 3. 1 for 2 from the foul line. He had 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals. And then Kris Dunn, 6 points. And how about that big play at the end of the game? Norman Powell with a big block. Kris Dunn saves it underneath our basket. And it results in a Norman Powell 3 to ice the game. Kris Dunn had 6 points, 9 rebounds, which was second to Zoo. 9 rebounds off the bench, 4 assists, and 4 steals. A lot of them interceptions. Just reading the pass before it's even in flight. 1 step ahead of his opponent. 3 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. Just excellent defense and an excellent performance by Kris Dunn. Nico Batum gave us 5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, several tapbacks on offensive rebounds. And just, again, another guy that gets his hands active and does such a good job of making himself big. Hands in the passing lane at all times. And he just helps you win games, doesn't he? It's so great to have him back. 5 points, 4 boards, 2 assists on 2 for 4 shooting and 1 for 3 from deep. But coming up, going to be talking about the guy leading the charge, starting the game, the guy trying to lead the charge coming off the bench, and then the homegrown boys, Terrence, Amir, and also Norman Powell. Going to be talking about their performance coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get great deals on tickets last minute, even up to the start of the event. And I'll tell you something. My favorite sport to watch live relative to TV is hockey. There's nothing like it. The goal songs, the horn, whether you're a Ducks fan or a Kings fan, I'm a Kings fan, but it's really special. The pace of the game, the noise, it's really incredible. The energy. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time gives you its lowest price guarantee, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference. So if you want to go to a Kings game, Ducks game, or even I used it for the NLCS Game 1 and then the Clippers home opener, go to Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, back here to talk about the Clippers winning it 112-104, the third game of the season at the Chase Center. They shoot 47% from the field in the game, 31% from three, so not great there, which is fine. It makes it even more satisfying that we won and we didn't shoot well from three. And 18 for 23 from the foul line. We did turn the ball over 18 times, and half of those were from Harden and Zoo, who I think have to limit them a bit. But it is what it is. If we're winning games, I'm not going to complain that much. These are some of the stats I like to hear, though. The Warriors only shot 43% from the field. They only shot 33% from three. And they turned the ball over 21 times. That's in large part to our defense. The Golden State Warriors run a very creative offense. It involves a lot of movement, a lot of motion, a lot of off-ball screens. We were staying chest to chest with them off the ball. We understood that only Steph was going to really hurt us. Andrew Wiggins had an outlier shooting game, and I like Andrew Wiggins, but he's not usually shooting 5 for 8 from three. He had 29 points on 11 for 15 shooting, and that's part of the game plan. We're going to live with it. We're living with all their big shooting. Draymond didn't even look at the rim, and so their attention to detail was really good. Jeff Van Gundy, I mean, how about how animated he's been on the bench on defense. He's living and dying with every possession on that end of the floor, and you're seeing the attention to detail. But I'll tell you what, if Jeff Van Gundy didn't have good defenders, it wouldn't matter because it's all about personnel. It is about the players. Jeff Van Gundy deserves a ton of credit, and I'm so thankful to have him on board. But Derrick Jones Jr., Kris Dunn, Nico Batum, Terrence Mann was okay defensively tonight, not great, and we're going to need a little bit more from Terrence. He's off to a slow start after the first game. Second and third game have not been good. He's looked hesitant. He's looked not confident. He misses one shot, and then he second guesses himself. He gets run off the line, and he doesn't stop and pop. He's got no floater, so he tries to go into the teeth of the D, put his shoulder into the chest of a defender, and sometimes he gets blocked. It's either he's got a good mid-range. I would suggest sometimes he stops and pops for the mid-range if he's not going to take that three, because if you're just going to go three and layup, I mean, I don't know. I'm not feeling too confident about that with Terrence. And I see a lot of people on social media criticizing him, talking about trade Terrence and all this. It's been 3 games. He hasn't had a bad season as a Clipper. He had a bad stretch last season that was far worse than this and for much longer, and we still stood by him and he turned on. Ended up doing a better job on Luka than anybody in the playoffs last year. And we're talking about turning on him after 2 bad games. And that we won, by the way. It's like, that's the thing. Terrence is not going to hurt you that much, in my opinion. Yeah, he'll hurt the spacing a bit if he's not shooting the ball. Defensively, he's never going to be awful. And he didn't play much in the second half. It is what it is. And I'm okay with it. Amir Coffey, he made a big 3, but he was on the quieter side in this game. He played 20 minutes. He had 8 points, 3 boards on 3 for 5 shooting. He made his only 3 that he took, the one I just described. 1 for 2 from the foul line. Terrence Mann played 18 minutes, had 2 points on a dunk that he got a steal off of. He got 1 rebound, and he was 1 for 5 from the field and 0 for 1 from 3. Right now, it just doesn't feel like Terrence is doing much, but at the same time, sometimes not doing too much is good. Actually, no. When you don't do too much, it's always good, but Terrence is never a guy that's going to do too much. He's a guy that won't give you enough, and I think, let's say you do put a KPJ in that starting lineup, I think he throws off the whole synergy. Terrence Mann will never throw off the synergy. That's why he's easy to plug into things. But if we see 15 to 20 games of this before Kawhi comes back, we can consider a change in that starting lineup. Maybe Amir Coffey. But I think Terrence will get it right. I think he'll figure it out. But can I just say to the people that are criticizing him, the ones that have big followings on Twitter as well, if you keep it basketball, I don't think it's a big deal. But if you're talking about trading him, he sucks, this and that, he and his people are going to see these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want him. Terrence is a confidence guy. We want to keep his confidence high. Let's not do that. He's done so much for the Clippers. The least we could do is support him a little bit. Anyway, James Harden. James Harden was struggling a bit shooting the ball in this game, but his passing in the pick and roll was as great as always. And he had a big layup to make it 103-100 late in the game. The end of the third quarter, he was doing exactly what made me say all the things that you've heard me say about him that are negative. completely just ball dominating because the Warriors switched everything when Zubac went out. And he kept getting Kevon Looney on the switch, and he was literally just dribbling for 20 seconds and not even trying to drive and just taking bad step backs. I was just like, this is what I call terrorist ball. This is terrible. This is if any of the kids I've coached try to do this, I would call a timeout. Now, of course, I probably will never coach anybody as talented as James Harden, but one guy dribbling that much and just bricking threes is the worst kind of basketball to me. But James was still good in the game, in my opinion. You might say he wasn't because he was 6 for 19 and was 2 for 12 from 3, and that is a lot of threes. It is a back-to-back, and he was clearly gassed. He has to carry so much weight, which makes me a little nervous in the long haul. But he was 9 for 9 from the line, and he had another double-double, and he rebounded again. 23 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists. He's made life easier for Zoo. We cannot do this without him. Point blank, end of story. We cannot. So the starting lineup, and then the last. Actually, before I get into Norman Powell, Kai Jones played only 5 minutes. It's been the second straight game where we haven't really gone with him that much, and the reason for that is because we do not fear anyone on the opposing team's bench that's a big. So we feel as though we can switch everything and not give up much defensively while having better spacing offensively. So, and I have to say, the thing is, though, when you don't have a big like that is going to roll hard, or maybe take advantage of a mismatch and teams switch, it causes more one-on-one play. And that's why I think the offense can get a bit nasty with KPJ when we do go to that switch everything unit. So maybe look to have Kai Jones just to play off of KPJ a bit and make it easier for him. But KPJ, 7 points, 3 assists, 2 steals. It was his best game of the season thus far for sure. He did still have 2 turnovers, and he was 2 for 7 from the field and 1 for 2 from 3. He just hasn't been efficient at all to start the season. I wouldn't mind giving Bones Highland a look. But again, I understand. I can't say be patient about Terrence and then not be patient with KPJ. But KPJ is already not in great favor with a lot of fans for several reasons. And I don't think he's playing good ball. But I do think he's more talented than Bones. I just feel like Bones deserves a chance. And the last guy, Norman Powell. How great has he been to start the season? Finally starting, getting an opportunity. He always has that curl to his right, but in the last 2 games, he's had a curl to his left once in each game. So that's been very nice to see. He's even shown a little bit of self-creation, but his clutch shooting has been fantastic. Uber efficient and showing that he's ready for that starting role. 20 points for Norm. 1 rebound, no assists. By the way, he only has that jump and scoop pass under the basket. It's so funny and a little annoying. But I love Norm, and he's playing great. 8 for 15 from the field for him. 2 for 7 from 3. 2 for 3 from the foul line in 28 minutes. My player of the game is Ivica Zubac. And here's the moral of the story. Start placing your bets for Zoo to be most improved player. And again, I don't think he's improved a ton. He's improved, though. It's the opportunity, and now everyone's going to see it, and his stats are going to go up so much. By the way, I said if Zubac averages 30-plus minutes, he would be a walking double-double. I said 15 and 10 before the season started. We might be looking at 20 and 10. Or I don't know about 20, but 18 and 11 type numbers. If you can average 18 and 11 with the defense, we could be talking all-star consideration. And that changes our entire ceiling. And also, for people that are team blow it up, I'm sorry, but building around Zoo, or like him being one of the centerpieces of a rebuild, doesn't make our future look as bleak, does it? All I'm saying is the Clippers are coming. And yes, a large part of me is thinking, man, if we get a healthy Kawhi back, we really could be dangerous. Like, make it out of the West dangerous. Although OKC, I don't know, they're very good. But any other team besides them, I think we have a shot with Kawhi. But then it's just like, do you go back to that with Kawhi? And it's like, it's exhausting at this point. So I'm just kind of enjoying what we're seeing right now. And that's a blue-collar team that plays hard defensively because of guys like Kris Dunn. Buy his jersey. I'm going to do it in red. And James Harden leading the way. Next game, ladies and gentlemen, after this one, a 112-104 win at the Chase Center, is against the Portland Trail Blazers on Wednesday. So we have Monday off and Tuesday off. 7:30, October 30th. We have a back-to-back. Next game, we're playing the Suns again at Intuit Dome. I will not be able to be at either of those games, sadly. But it is what it is. The age-old proverb continues. Go. Oh, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.